God as Father, what does this mean? I just want you to keep an image of a good earthly father. I know that we all didn't have the benefit of growing up with good earthly fathers, right? But just that ideal of a good earthly father. Because we're going to see in chapter 11, let's just look at chapter 11 of Hosea, some of what God means as Father. A bit of the background is important here. And I won't go into all the details, just that God refers to Israel at this point in chapter 11 of Hosea as Ephraim, because Ephraim was the oldest of Jacob's son, and Jacob's name was changed to Israel, right? And the 12 tribes of Israel that became ultimately the nation of Israel under David and Solomon, that's all falling apart now. The nation of Israel is falling apart. And so, if you would, God is appealing to the oldest son and his family of the 12 tribes, Ephraim. Okay, so I just don't want you to be confused if you go and read this. So, he's referring to the whole family because he hopes to woo back his family through the oldest son, Ephraim. Right, that's a little bit background. Another thing to keep in mind here is that the people have broken the covenant with God. And in breaking the covenant with God, they have gone the way of the pagans, the other people in the lands that they're encountering. And it's just not a good situation, because what they end up doing is they're worshiping these things called Baal or Baals. Okay, B-A-A-L. And that's just a generic term for a pagan god. Like, listen, if we're not worshiping God, we're going to end up worshiping everything else. And that's what happens with Israel. They stop worshiping Yahweh, the only true God in all of the universe, and they end up worshiping other gods who are not even God. They're false gods. So they break the covenant. And God uses this image of himself as a father who comes to Ephraim, and he says, I've walked with you. I've carried you in my arms. And just kind of staying with this image then, it's this God who bends down to Ephraim to pick him up and to feed him. When we turn away from him, as Israel did, God shows us in this image that he loves us. And in fact, that when we do this, it breaks his heart. But he does not destroy us. He does not destroy us. And he reminds us through Hosea that he's not going to destroy Israel. And he's not going to destroy you and I when we break covenant and we start worshiping other things, other false gods. But he is going to allow us to experience the consequences of worshiping other gods, of not worshiping him and not following him, of choosing our own way, of choosing the ways of this world. He's not going to be the one who judges us. Our actions are going to be the things that judge us, and we're going to get the consequences of our actions. However, like a good father, he does not want harm to come to us. We bring that harm to ourselves, and in some cases, we're the ones who destroy ourselves and destroy other people because of our selfishness, our sinfulness, and our pride, our ego, and so many other things. And he doesn't try to control Israel. He tries to woo Israel back through Ephraim. He's not gonna control us. Like when we do things that we know that we shouldn't be doing, right? Because we're Christians and we know we shouldn't be doing X, Y, or Z. He's not going to try to control you. He's not going to come down and forbid you from doing that, getting in the car, drunk, and driving, and killing another person. That's on you, right? Or on that drunk driver. That's not on God. And that's part of living in this world that says it's okay to do things like that. But here's a thing to keep in mind, and that is that when we make our mistakes, when we sin, when we abandon him, when we worship other gods, when we do it our way rather than his way, He's going to remain as a father with us. A good father, when a son or daughter messes up, often will allow that son and daughter to live out the consequences. So they can learn from it, so they can grow from it, so they can mature from it, so they can become stronger people and so on. Come on, God's no different. In fact, He's perfect in that way. But then He doesn't cancel us out like our cancel culture today. He doesn't abandon us. He's not going to strike us with the lightning. He's not going to kill us, you know. He's not going to judge us and we're resigned to a life of misery. That's not on Him. If we're resigned to a life of misery, it's because of the stuff that we're doing and interacting in our own lives. Because He can take everything, including our own suffering, which is the consequences ultimately of the fall and is on us. He can take all of that and make good of it. You know, an earthly father can take some of the stuff that we do that's stupid when we're kids, and He can sit down with us and say, I want to help you through this. And I want to let you know I love you, even though this has happened, and that I forgive you. But there has to be consequences to your behavior. But I'm going to walk with you every step of the way, and you're going to become stronger because of this. Well, that's our God. Remember that even as we live in this world and deal with the stuff that we bought into, the lies we believed, and that the stuff that we grasp for that we shouldn't be grasping for, we got a God like a father who then stoops down to us and takes us into His hands and then to His arms and continues to love us and to offer us the fullness of life. That's the kind of God that we have. We have a Father who, even when we run away from home, welcomes us back. And when He welcomes us back, He does not allow our mistakes to hang over us like a black cloud. But He forgives us. He has mercy on us, and He lets us begin again. He lets us learn from our mistakes, but then He doesn't allow us to be defined by our mistakes, but to be set free by His love. And not despite the mistakes, but through the mistakes that we make in life. We have a good Father. Never forget that when sometimes you want to blame Him for the stuff that, well, was the result of your own hands or the hands of another person. When we live in a fallen world interacting with other people, this is the stuff we're going to encounter. But it's also the occasion for us to run to our Father precisely because of the world that we live in. Until next time, folks.